Fall is a perfect time to plant. The plants have time to establish before the ground freezes and they're ready to grow in spring. Let's plan for color in all 4 seasons. The aim of most gardeners is to have year-round pleasure, having areas of interest as long as possible, basically creating sculpture and a picture composition, as the famous Gertrude Jekyll would say. Our goal is to have one thing take over from the last for 4 seasons of interest. This requires us to plan a succession of trees, shrubs, perennials, annuals, and bulbs, since no one group can provide this, no matter the size of your garden. So a mixed border is the goal to still have interest, obviously, even in the winter. Think about where you see your garden from. Is it while you're standing at the kitchen sink? Are you having a cup of coffee in the kitchen? Are you sitting at your desk or elsewhere? Trees and shrubs provide a structure that perennials can't, but by themselves, they're not always very interesting. The goal is to have interest, even when there are no flowers. When designing our gardens, we want to think about how things are going to look, even in the winter. So let's plan for what a plant will look like in all 4 seasons. Let's plan for flowering and non-flowering plants. Let's look for plants with interesting branch structure or bark. In winter, we can clearly analyze the bones in our gardens. We'll explore the plants I have in my garden that provide this interest, including grasses that stand all winter like Calamagrotis, Carl Foster. When you contrast plant forms, you add interest. You break up what might be a flat, boring landscape. You can create different moods. Choose plants that differ in color tones. Don't forget green's a color, so shrubs and tree foliage should always be considered in your designs. And there are many shapes and colors to consider. Leaves can be glossy, they can be matte, they can add a different effect. Your garden will just be more interesting with different shapes and textures of plants, trees, and shrubs, as well as variegated and colored needles or leaves. So let's explore my garden to see how I employ these principles and what plants I use. And remember, gardening is a process that involves making mistakes, but also provides great rewards. So I think we'll just walk around the garden and check things out. So here is a fall cypress called lemon thread. Cypress is the Latin name. This is a kind of a slow growing semi-dwarf one, kind of shrubby variety with that kind of whipcord-like branches. But the bright yellow thread-like foliage, you can see it here. I have 3 of them there. It really stands out, so it's really attractive in the winter because it holds its color all winter long. So this, again, is the Cypress piscifera lemon thread. This amazing evergreen is Abies concolor, white fir. You could use it for a Christmas tree if you want. It's got soft, silvery, blue-green flat needles and has a nice pyramidal growth shape. It typically grows in the Northeast like 30 to 50 feet tall by 15 to 20 feet wide. The soft silvery blue foliage is very similar to the blue spruce, but it's more durable and pest resistant and can tolerate heat and drought better than the blue spruces, which is the next ones that I have there. It's a great tall screen. Full sun is best for foliage color, and it's best if planted in the spring. It also has an amazing orange scent if you rub the needles. This is one of my favorites, and I've only planted this 6 years ago. So look how big this is. It started as a 5 or 6 foot tree. It grew really quickly. I guess it's happy. So next up, as we come around the corner here, we've got the barberry, Japanese barberry. I think this is royal burgundy, but I'm not sure. They really like well-drained soil. Watch, they have thorns. Great winter interest, though. They're very deer resistant, drought, clay soil tolerant, which is great for me. And royal burgundy is a sterile cultivar, so it won't self-seed, so you don't have to worry about that. And it typically can get 5 feet tall and wide. In the spring, it has a little yellow flower, but it's really grown for its foliage. Next up is the beautiful oak leaf hydrangea. I have Alice, zone 5 through 9, can get 5 to 8 feet tall. This provides interest all year, first with its flowers, and then in the fall as the leaves turn just an amazing shade of that purple, crimson, whatever. And then in the winter, it's got an exfoliating cinnamon brown bark. after all the leaves have dropped. This just provides interest, like I said, all year long. It is a great shrub. Then I have several very large blue spruces. I have two of those, and I have a very large Norway spruce. These are all zone 2 through 7. They're very hardy. They get very tall, like, 30, 40, 60 feet tall. And I've got to say, especially this Norway spruce, has grown so quickly. So these really are an anchor for this garden bed. I planted them, like I said, in previous videos. I've mentioned that I've only lived here. I think this is my 6th or 7th year. So this blue spruce is right behind the oak leaf hydrangeas and the sedum. So it could actually need more sun than it's getting. The backside is not as full as I'd like it to be. So definitely they do prefer full sun. The Norway spruce, however, is just humongous. And I can't even believe how this one has grown. And it's got the hedge of Viburnum mariaci to the right of it, which has great fall color right now with the maples behind it and the willows behind it also. So these are some really large ones. Now I do have other piceas, which is spruce. I have hillside upright, which is in my front bed there. You can see the tall one, and it's with some dwarf Serbian spruces, Picea omaraca nana. And then in the front of my house, I have another tall Norway spruce. It's a columnar one called Cuprocina. So I have quite a few of the spruces. They're very hardy in my area, which is really nice. And they make a really nice anchor and winter interest, which is why I plant these things. Winter interest. There's something to look at when you look out, though. We'll look out. They're so pretty when they're covered with snow in the fall, in the winter. So as we continue on, I have a bunch of different ilexes, which are Japanese. This is a Japanese holly called Sky Pencil. I have 3 of them. You can see it even from above here. They're narrow columnar form and stays nice and neat all year round. Has small purple berries in the fall. Full sun, zone 5 through 9. I actually had these originally in containers, and then they started to get too big, so I moved them to a different spot. I also have a couple of Steeds uprights, another Ilex crenata. Very easy to grow, densely branched evergreen shrub. It's got a very interesting pyramidal form, lustrous dark green foliage, which really provides nice interest in the winter time. Black berries last all winter on the female plants. Takes full sun, can get 6 to 8 feet tall and 5 to 6 feet wide. Likes to be in a kind of a moist location. So I'm sure you saw this one in the previous video that I did. These are the winter berries, Ilex verticillata, with beautiful red berries. So you need a male and a female to get the berries. These are hollies, but they're not evergreen. But the berries will last all winter, which is really lovely. So this is Nana Red Sprite, and I also have Jim Dandy for the male. They like a medium to wet location, zones 3 through 9, and they will tolerate clay soil, which is wonderful. So this one I just picked up actually because it was on sale for half price. This is a Japanese holly called Soft Touch, an Ilex crenata. Again, gets like 2 to 3 feet tall. I thought it would be perfect for this container. Takes full sun, but it's a nice, small, dense evergreen shrub. So I'm planning on keeping this in the container at least till next year and see what happens. And this is zones 5 through 9. But this will provide lots of winter interest in this spot under my river birches. So I mentioned that I have a lot of grasses. This is just a miscanthus. I think this might be Yakushima. But another thing you can think of besides just grasses is leaving up the seed heads on things like your black-eyed Susans and your coneflowers. First of all, the birds love them, but they provide a really pretty interest when there's snow on top of them. So this is an easy way to get some winter interest. The seed heads are so pretty on especially the coneflowers. So one of my favorites is this Cypress obtusa, Hinoki cypress. You can see the yellow-green color. These are like soft pyramidal shaped trees with spreading branches that have like that drooping frond-like branches. The needles are nice and dark above, and then that yellow-green on the undersides. It's very almost fern-like. It's very soft. They like moist, well-drained soil, so it's a great accent plant or specimen plant. I think this one is Nanagracillus, which grows about 6 feet high. I think this one's already more than 6 feet high, and typically 3 to 4 feet wide. But it really provides a nice contrast in this border. In the wintertime, I have the Kusa dogwood form. I've got the hydrangea branching on the sides of it, and whatever perennials or grasses might still be standing, but provides a really nice structure in the middle of this very long bed. And right next to it, actually right under it, I have a sprinter boxwood, and I have a few of these around the yard. I have a few different, and boxwoods are your kind of used often in parterres. You see them a lot in formal gardens. They like loose, well-drained soil. I don't really use them for hedging. I also have some green velvet boxwoods. In the front of my house, I have 3 together. I wouldn't call it a hedge, though. And I really don't shape them. I kind of like that loose, hairy look, I guess is what you call it. They're typically hardy in zones 5 through 8, 5 through 9. So here you can see in my garden, in my garage, near my garage, that I have the green velvets. So new to me this year, I planted an Acer griseum, a paperbark maple. I am so excited about this tree. As far as winter interest, this tree has very few peers. The gorgeous rich cinnamon to reddish brown exfoliating bark really catches your attention, keeps it. It's a nice small tree. It's zone 5 through 8. The leaves are bluish green in the summer, but then they turn a brilliant red in the fall. Like I said, this is in one of my new beds. I am very excited about it. That exfoliating bark, I just love it, just like the river birches that I have, just like the Ninebarks. So if you can only pick one thing for winter interest, maybe try to look at something that has exfoliating bark, because it's so interesting, and with a backdrop of snow, just absolutely gorgeous. So something else you could consider using is like arbors. Structures actually also give us winter interest. So this one I moved, when I moved the wisteria, I moved this to the back new garden bed, and I still have 2 other arbors. But they also, like I said, provide nice winter interest. So here in this bed, I also put in some cryptomerias, and they're a nice alternative sometimes to pines or spruces or firs. And then I also have a really nice big pine tree that I put in, and I guess you can't go wrong with pine trees. Moving on, I'll never be sorry that I bought this dawn redwood. This is Gold Rush, so supposedly this one grows a little bit slower than the other species. So it hopefully won't get too much taller, because it's already grown at least twice the size. But it's got a beautiful ferny leaf texture. Now, this is a deciduous tree, so it will lose its leaves, but its structure just remains all winter. And right next to it, you see I have plant supports. I leave these in in the winter time. So again, there's something to look at, not just the arbors, but all the different plant supports. I have supports on my roses, and these provide a lovely structure in the winter with snow on them, even when the plants are gone. You can see I have them on my roses. I have them on most of my tall plants. I have them on my peonies. They're really scattered all over the garden. So whether it's arbors or supports, any kind of metal structures, metal bird baths I have, those all work. Now I also have a bunch of French pussy willows, and these are great in the winter, obviously, because the pussy willows come out in the middle of the winter when there's not much else around. You can actually cut these to the ground every 3 to 5 years. So I love my hawthorns. I have winter kings, 2 of them. They have a beautiful rounded habit, almost vase-shaped structure, branching structure, gray-green stems, have a really nice architecture in the garden. It's a great choice for a small ornamental tree. The bark on the older stems exfoliates, which I love, and exposes that nice gray-green, orangish brown. Grows 20 to 25 feet high, zones 4 through 7. And of course, the persistent red fruit until the birds get to it and eat it all really provides a great winter interest. So walking around the garden, you can see I have a lot of supports. And like I said, I do leave these in all winter. One, because it helps me place the plants in the spring. But it also adds interest all year long, whether they're wood, whether they're metal. And I'm just quickly flipping through these because otherwise it'd be very boring. But I have lots of them. I get them from all over the place, whether it's, garden shops, antique places. It doesn't really matter, but I've had them for years and years and years. Still have some dahlias blooming and 1 or 2 daylilies even still hanging on. So we can't talk about my garden without talking about the Ninebarks, because I now have 5 different varieties on my property. I love them, Physocarpus. For the most part, they're zones 3 through 8. They have beautiful foliage in all summer long, spring flowers, but in the wintertime, they're exfoliating bark, almost like peels and strips, and it's beautiful. Once the leaves all fall, then you really can see it and appreciate it. You can use it as a hedge, which I do against my bedroom wall, so it provides a nice screen against my house. Again, they're great all 4 seasons of the year, and this is something you really want to look for with winter interest. I have Copertina, Summer Wine, Diablo, Festivus Gold, and Tiny Wine Gold. So they all provide something different colors. They do tolerate clay soil or dry soil, and they like full sun to part shade. I can't say enough about the Ninebarks. Like I said, Physocarpus is the actual name of them. So if you're looking for something for winter interest, try a Ninebark. You can't go wrong. So in the front of my house, you've seen these now over and over and over again. So here you can see the supports on the peonies. I have a fountain that we do turn off in the winter time, but it still provides winter interest in the front bed. And then as we walk along the path, we come to the red twig dogwoods. And once the leaves are gone, all winter you will have those red stems. Now, dogwoods also come as yellow twig dogwoods, but this is a great plant for the winter. Here we're looking at the hibiscus, which was blooming when I took this. And in the wintertime, I will show you what these things look like. I'll do a winter tour so you can see what I'm actually talking about. So right in front of my house, I have inkberries, Ilex glabra. These are a great substitute if you can't grow boxwoods because they stay green all winter long, which is really nice. So a really nice broadleaf evergreen, something to consider, very hardy. Zones 4 through 9 probably gets like 6 to 8 feet tall and 8 to 10 feet wide, but it's controllable. And last but not least, let's just take a last look. We're going to look at the river birches. So this one is a little king. Betula nigra is the Latin name for the river birches. And the nice thing about them is both of the ones I have, the tall ones I have are called Heritage, but the exfoliating bark is beautiful on both versions. Zones 4 through 9, they're just really beautiful. Again, winter interest like the Ninebarks, like the paperbark maples. They do come as single trunks. Both of mine are multi-stem trees. So you can see these are my two really tall ones. They grow very fast. They're a nice medium size, but they can get 40 to 70 feet tall, the Heritage version. But the exfoliating bark almost is like a creamy white inner bark, which is very cool. Very, very cool. I love these. And lastly, you can see the another arbor that I have. This one is in the front. It's got clematis. Two kinds of clematis actually, and New Dawn roses and a wisteria, amethyst falls. Makes a nice frame into this side garden from both directions, coming into the garden and then looking back out of the garden, which is really nice. The autumn clematis was blooming when I did this. And then in the back, I have another arbor that has a wisteria, lavender falls on it. Again, so this provides interest all winter long, even when there's nothing growing on it. So I have a little corkscrew vine growing on it now. You'll remember earlier this year, I actually had to take the wisteria off another arbor because it was growing so vigorously that I needed a heavier arbor to sustain it. So this is I keep cutting this back. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. But whether it's sculpture, it's bird baths, it's metal bird baths. I have a metal bird bath. Anything can give you winter interest. You really just have to plant for it. So let me know what your favorite plant, tree, or shrub is for winter interest. If you need help and live locally, I do garden design. Please subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss a video, and hit that like button. I have many blogs on gardening on my website. See the links below. So let's get planting. It's a great time of year. We can still get things in the ground. So let's plan. And if not for this year, then get it on your list for next season.